There is something about expectations in marriage that most people never fully understand. They are not always spoken. They are not always clear, and yet they shape everything. Two people can enter a marriage with love, with commitment, with hope, and still slowly begin to feel disappointed. Not because something obvious went wrong, but because something invisible was never aligned. That invisible thing is expectation. Not the expectations people talk about openly, but the ones they carry silently, the ones they assume, the ones they believe should happen naturally, without asking, without explaining, without even realizing they exist. And this is where the real problem begins, because expectations that are not expressed cannot be understood, and expectations that are not understood cannot be fulfilled. But the mind does not see it this way. The mind believes something very simple. If they love me, they should know. If they care, they should understand. If this is real, they should feel what I need. And this belief creates a silent pressure, a pressure that is never spoken, but always felt. First, it is small, barely noticeable, a moment where you expected something and did not receive it, a reaction that felt different from what you imagined. A response that did not match your emotional need. And in that moment something changes. Not loudly, but quietly. You feel something missing. Not enough to question everything, but enough to notice. And when this repeats, that small feeling becomes a pattern. You start expecting again. And again something does not match. And slowly, expectation turns into disappointment. Hidden expectations are powerful because they are invisible, not only to the other person, but often to yourself. You do not always know what you are expecting. You only realize it when it is not met. And this creates confusion because you feel something is wrong. But you cannot explain what, and when you cannot explain it, you cannot communicate it, so the expectation remains hidden, and the disappointment grows. Before marriage, people usually feel understood and emotionally connected, as if the other person truly sees and understands them. However, most of this understanding exists within a limited environment, shaped by effort, attention, and moments where both individuals are actively trying to connect. In those moments, everything feels complete and aligned, creating the impression of a deep and stable connection. But after marriage, life begins to change in a more continuous and realistic way. Time is no longer limited to special moments, and situations become part of everyday life rather than planned interactions. This is where the illusion slowly starts to break, because understanding that exists in occasional moments is very different from understanding that must exist consistently in daily life. And as daily life takes over, expectations naturally become more active, more constant, and more demanding. One of the most common hidden expectations is emotional mind reading, the belief that your partner should know how you feel without you explaining it, that they should sense your mood, understand your silence, recognize your needs without you saying anything. And when this does not happen, creates disappointment, not because they did something wrong, but because they did not do something expected. and that expectation was never communicated. Another hidden expectation is emotional consistency, the belief that the other person should always respond the same way, with the same care, the same attention, the same emotional energy. But people do not function in constant states. They change based on stress, energy, life situations, and when this natural variation happens, feels like something has changed, but in reality, it is just normal human behavior. After marriage, people expect to be a priority, not sometimes, but always. They expect attention, time, emotional availability, and when responsibilities increase and attention gets divided, this expectation is challenged, and when it is not fulfilled, creates a feeling that something is missing, that something is less. All of these expectations do not break the relationship immediately. They build something else, a slow emotional distance, because each unmet expectation creates a small emotional gap, and these gaps accumulate until one day the connection feels different, not broken, but not the same. And this is where the real damage begins, not through conflict, but through silence. And this is the truth most people never see clearly. Expectations do not destroy relationships. Hidden expectations do, because what is expressed can be understood, but what is assumed remains invisible, and invisible problems are the hardest to fix. As hidden expectations continue to exist, something slowly begins to change inside the relationship. It does not happen suddenly, and it is not always clearly visible, but it can be deeply felt over time. At first, the shift is very subtle. It appears as a small moment where something feels slightly incomplete. You expect a certain response, but what you receive feels different. You look for attention, but notice distraction. You hope for understanding, but experience silence. In that moment, there is no strong reaction. You adjust, you ignore it, and you move forward because it does not seem serious at the time. However, the mind does something important. It remembers the feeling, not the exact situation, but the emotional experience connected to it. That feeling becomes a reference point. The next time something similar happens, the mind automatically compares. And as the same pattern repeats, the feeling becomes stronger. This is how emotional gaps begin. Not because of one major event, but because of repeated small experiences that were never addressed. As these small moments accumulate, something begins to grow, a distance, not physical, but emotional. You are still together, still talking, still living the same life, but something feels slightly different. Conversations feel normal, but not deep. Moments feel shared, but not meaningful. And this is difficult to explain, because nothing is clearly wrong, and yet something is not fully right. And this creates confusion, because the mind searches for a reason, but cannot find a clear one. At the beginning, when expectations are not met, people try to express, they try to explain, they try to communicate, but when the response does not match the need, something changes. They begin to speak less, not because they have nothing to say, but because saying it does not feel effective. They begin to hold things inside, not intentionally, but gradually, and this is where silence begins. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of unspoken expectations. One of the strongest effects of hidden expectations is the feeling of being unseen, not ignored, not rejected, but not fully understood. And this feeling is subtle, but powerful, because it does not create immediate conflict. It creates internal withdrawal. You stop expecting them to understand. You stop depending on them emotionally. You start managing your feelings on your own. And this reduces connection, because connection requires sharing. And sharing reduces when understanding is missing. Another important layer is interpretation. When expectations are not met, the mind tries to explain why, and often it creates its own meaning. They do not care. They are not paying attention. They have changed. Even if these are not fully true, the mind uses them to make sense of the feeling. And this changes perception, because now you are not just experiencing moments. You are interpreting them, and interpretation shapes emotion. The mind constantly compares what is happening with what was expected, and this comparison creates dissatisfaction, because expectation is often ideal, while reality is practical, and this gap between ideal and real creates emotional discomfort, not because reality is wrong, but because expectation was unrealistic or unspoken. As expectations grow, appreciation decreases, because when something is expected, it no longer feels valuable, feels normal, and when it does not happen, feels like something is missing. So the focus shifts from what is present to what is absent, and this creates a negative perception. Even if many positive things still exist, this creates a loop. Expectation, not fulfilled, disappointment, silence, repeat. And each time the loop repeats, the emotional distance increases, not dramatically, but steadily, until one day, the connection feels weaker, even though nothing major happened. This is why people often say, everything was fine and then suddenly it changed. But the truth is different. It did not change suddenly. It changed slowly, through many small moments that were never addressed, never understood, never communicated. And over time, those moments shaped the relationship. And this is the truth most people never realize. Emotional distance is not created by big problems. It is created by small, unspoken expectations, repeated over time, because what is not expressed cannot be resolved, and what is not resolved accumulates. As hidden expectations continue to build, something deeper begins to happen, not just in the relationship, but inside the person. First, it was only disappointment, then it became emotional distance, but now it starts becoming exhaustion, a kind of tiredness that is not physical, but emotional. You are still present, still doing things, still fulfilling responsibilities, but inside, something feels heavy, because every expectation that is not met creates a small emotional strain. And when that strain repeats again and again, the mind becomes tired, not because of one moment, but because of the pattern. One of the strongest feelings that comes from hidden expectations is the feeling of being unappreciated, not because nothing is being done, but because what is being done is not being recognized in the way it is expected. You give effort, you show care, you try to maintain the relationship, but when the response does not match your expectation, it feels like your effort is not valued. And this creates a shift, because effort without recognition starts losing meaning. At the beginning, people give freely, without calculation, without comparison. But when expectations are not met, the mind begins to track how much I am giving, how much I am receiving, and this creates imbalance, because relationships are not meant to be measured. But once measurement begins, connection changes. It becomes transactional instead of emotional. As this continues, emotional burnout begins. You start feeling drained, not because of work, not because of life, but because of the relationship itself. Because you are constantly expecting something and constantly adjusting when it is not met. And this constant adjustment creates fatigue. You start feeling like no matter what you do, something is still missing, and that feeling becomes exhausting. At some point, effort starts decreasing, not intentionally, but naturally, because the mind begins to protect itself. It stops investing the same energy, because the return is not felt. This is not about love disappearing. This is about motivation decreasing, because effort needs emotional reward. And when that reward is missing, effort feels heavy, and heavy effort cannot continue forever. As effort decreases, emotional withdrawal begins. You stop sharing everything. You stop expressing fully. You stop expecting deeply, because expecting has already created disappointment. And this withdrawal is not loud. It is silent, but powerful, because it reduces connection without creating visible conflict. At this stage, both people feel something is wrong, but in different ways. One feels unappreciated. The other feels pressured. One wants more effort. The other feels unable to give it. And this creates misunderstanding, because both are reacting to different experiences, and neither fully understands the other. As expectations continue to clash, emotional safety decreases. People start feeling less comfortable expressing, less open, less connected, because they do not feel fully understood. And without emotional safety, connection cannot grow, can only survive. At this stage, the relationship reaches a point where it feels different, not broken, but not fulfilling, not painful all the time, but not peaceful either. And this is one of the most confusing phases, because there is no clear reason, but there is a clear feeling. Something is missing, and this is the truth most people do not realize. Effort alone cannot sustain a relationship. It needs understanding. It needs alignment. It needs emotional connection. Without that, effort becomes pressure, and pressure turns into exhaustion. Hidden expectations do not just create disappointment. They slowly change how people feel, how they behave, how they connect, until one day, the relationship feels like something to manage, instead of something to experience. And this is the stage where everything becomes clear, not loudly, not suddenly, but deeply. There is no big moment, no dramatic event, no single reason that explains everything. And yet, inside, something has already changed, because by now, the pattern has repeated enough times. The expectations, the disappointment, the silence, the emotional distance. And once a pattern repeats long enough, stops feeling like a phase, starts feeling like reality. At some point, a quiet realization begins to form, not a reaction, not anger, not frustration, but understanding. You begin to see things differently, not based on what you hoped, but based on what is consistently happening. And this changes everything, because now, you are not reacting to moments, you are seeing patterns, and patterns are difficult to ignore. Before this point, there was still hope that things will change, that understanding will improve, that expectations will be met. But once patterns become clear, illusion starts fading, not painfully, but naturally, because illusion depends on possibility. And when possibility no longer feels real, illusion loses its hold. This is where something important happens. Emotional detachment, not complete disconnection, but reduced emotional involvement. You are still there, but not in the same way. You still care, but not with the same intensity. You still stay, but not with the same emotional presence. And this is the most dangerous stage, because it does not look like a problem, but it changes everything. At this stage, everything feels calm, almost too calm. There are fewer arguments, less emotional reaction, less conflict. But this calm is not peace. It is distance, because when emotions reduce, conflict also reduces, but so does connection. And this is where something happens internally, a decision, not spoken, not announced, but formed slowly, based on everything that has been experienced. And this decision is not impulsive. It is built over time, through repeated patterns, through emotional experiences, through understanding. And by the time it becomes visible, it is already complete inside. This is why people often say, "It ended suddenly," but the truth is, it did not end suddenly. It ended slowly, in silence, through small moments that were never addressed. And when it finally becomes visible, it looks sudden, but it is not. It is the result of a long process. And this is the truth most people never realize. It is not the expectations that break marriages. It is the expectations that were never expressed, never understood, never aligned. Because what is expressed can be worked on, but what is hidden cannot be seen, and what cannot be seen cannot be fixed. Marriage does not break in one moment. It shifts, slowly, quietly, through emotional patterns, through repeated experiences, through unspoken expectations. And once those patterns become reality, the connection changes, not because love disappears, but because understanding was never complete. And this is the truth most people never say out loud. Marriages do not fail because of one big problem. They fail because of many small things that were never spoken, never understood, never resolved. Because connection is not built on love alone. It is built on clarity, on communication, on understanding. And the moment those things are missing, the relationship begins to change, not loudly, but silently, until one day, it no longer feels the same. So the real question is not, do you love each other? The real question is, do you truly understand each other? Because without understanding, even the strongest connection can slowly turn into distance. And if this made you see something deeper, something you could not explain before, then stay aware, because awareness is what changes everything. And if you want to understand relationships at a deeper level, make sure you subscribe, because what you understand, you no longer lose.